Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight, Emmanuel is out. He's heading to Chicago. What a surprise. I wonder if he'll stay in D.C. for the weekend for the One Nation rally. And by the way, the One Nation rally, do you know who's funding this? You're not going to believe it. I mean, when I was told this morning by my research staff, I said, you gotta be kidding me. No. If you think I'm gonna tell you now, no. Savor it. Savor it. Oh, it's worth the wait, I'll tell you before the end of the hour. But we've got a lot to do today. Come on, let's go. Hello, America. A quick personal note at the top of the show, because I think it sets the mood for where I'm at and where I think the country is headed. Before I went on the radio show today, two of my producers said to me, something is happening to you. And I said, I know, I can feel it, I'm changing. My producer said, it's 8:28. It is 8:28. That did change me. But I can't figure out exactly how or where I'm headed, or where the country is headed. I do know that I've changed, and I know that I'm not the only one. Next week, we're going to be showing you some people whose lives have already changed because of 8:28. They've taken the 40-day and 40-night challenge that we've been asking you to do. But there's two things tonight that I want to tell you before we get started. I keep feeling like I'm going all John Galt. I don't know if you've ever read the book Atlas Shrugged, but you should if you haven't. In the book, which is agonizingly long, John Galt just disappears, and everybody says, where's John Galt? He's a big industrialist and a leader, if you will, but not in a position of power. He just disappears. I can't tell you how many people I have talked to and said, man, I just want to go all John Galt, but there's no place to go. There isn't. You are where you're supposed to be. There's no utopia that you can escape to and be free to live your life. That's why people came here on the Mayflower. That's why immigrants have come here for hundreds of years, because this was the last place where you could be free to create what you wanted to be, what you wanted to do. However, I think there is a way, and I'm just at the beginning of this journey, where people may ask, where is John Galt when they see you? They'll be talking about you. What happened to you? Here's the way to go, all John Galt. It's stop playing the game. Stop playing the game that everybody has set up. That's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is, and we'll get into both of these next week, something else is happening. It was reported in the New York Times story that is coming out this Sunday. There's 50 billion word story on me in the New York Times Magazine. And in that article, it told a story about how I wrote Sarah Palin after I gave a speech with her in Alaska. Sarah and I are friends. And sometimes we write each other at 2 o'clock in the morning, which I don't know is like 5 in the afternoon to her. And we have just shared thoughts back and forth. I wrote her last week and I said, Sarah, I'm not sure anymore if I'm doing more harm or more good. And that's not entirely true. I hope I'm trying to do good, but I'm stuck right now between places. For a while now, I've told you this, I haven't wanted to do the show that I'm doing. I haven't wanted to do many of the things that I'm doing, at least not the way that I'm doing them. But I have to change like you and evolve as we go. I talked to a trusted friend about 6 months ago, and he gave me, I think, some sage advice. He said, well, where would you run to? I said, I don't know. He said, to everything there is a season. Continue for a season, because you don't ever run from something, you run to something. I thought that was pretty profound. Not just for me, but also for you. I think all of us. I don't know, I'm sure it's not just me, but I sense metaphorically that the leaves are changing. The seasons are changing. I don't know if we're headed into winter or, I hope, into spring, but the leaves are changing. So what does that mean? Well, that means we hope and prepare for spring, but we also prepare for winter. We prepare by being good and decent. We prepare by being better than we were yesterday as individuals. We prepare by knowing our facts, by knowing our history. Don't allow anyone else, don't allow me to tell you anything. And then you just take it as gospel, because it's not gospel. Many of the things we tell you are facts, but some of the things are opinions. You have to have your own opinion. Last night I told you the facts about Obama's upbringing. They are facts. The reason why I tell you these things is because we have to know who people are so we can navigate and we know what we're dealing with. I can safely arrive at a conclusion, an opinion of what is happening and how the president is making decisions if I really look at the facts. Now, these facts are really well put together in this book, The Roots of Obama's Rage by Dinesh D'Souza. Everybody should read this book. It's now the #1 selling book on Amazon.com. And I think it's going to be that way for quite some time, because you must read it and pass it on. But here's what we learned last night before we come to our own opinions and conclusions. First, Barack Obama's dad. Barack Obama's dad said this: theoretically, there is nothing that can stop the government from taxing 100% of income, so long as the people get benefits from the government. You got it? So in other words, they can take 100% if they want to, as long as it's shared with everybody else. Now, this was his father. His father was a Marxist, an anti-colonial Marxist, not the kind of Marxist that you found in the Soviet Union. Now, his mother, she was also an anti-colonialist. She is Stanley Ann. She married Lolo Soreto. He was a capitalist, but she didn't really know that. That's why he was sent away. He was sent away to Hawaii, to her grandparents, right here. This is Stanley Ann Dunham's mom and dad. Grandpa decided that he needed to have a role model, somebody that he could really fashion his life after. A mentor, Frank Marshall Davis. This is Frank Marshall Davis's FBI file. It's pretty intense. So this is the dad's writing. Mom sends Barack away because he's being influenced by somebody who's not a Marxist or an anti-colonialist. Sends him to Grandma and Grandpa, who send him right to Frank Marshall Davis, who is a communist with an FBI file. Now, this is the only reason why we're telling you this is because this is who helped shape the young man's worldview. A communist who had a ton of influence. And there's more influence than just his father, but it's, remember, the book is not dreams of my father, it is dreams from my father. The dreams that Barack Obama got from his father. Now, we go to his mentors. Here are the mentors. Mentors are Edward Said. He's the guy at Columbia. He is a spokesman for the Palestinian National Council. So he is an anti-colonialist. The colonial occupiers, if you will, are Israel. Another one, of course, is Roberto Unger. This guy is also the leading anti-colonial legal scholar. Then, of course, we have Reverend Wright, who the book that Obama wrote, The Audacity of Hope, comes from a sermon that this guy gave. Now, if you've heard any of his sermons, they all include liberation theology, the idea of the oppressed and the oppressor. That's it. Now, the oppressed can be anywhere. They could be here, they could be Africa, they could be Israel, but the oppressors are usually Europe and the United States. Then, of course, Bill Ayers sat with Barack Obama on the board of the Woods Foundation. Anti-colonialism. Remember when we went over the Weather Underground and their manifesto? It was anti-colonialism. That's what they all have in common. From here to here, anti-colonialism. The idea that there are colonizers and the colonized. There is America or Europe, and then the third world victims, oppressor and victims. All of these things are a fact. Now you can decide they mean nothing, but they're all facts. We'll get to opinion here in a second. The other thing is, remember, his church is also anti-colonialism. It's liberation theology. There is an oppressor and the oppressed. Remember, I've been talking to you about, what do you call it, collective salvation. And the president has said time and time again, my salvation is dependent on a collective salvation. In other words, he must stop the oppressor and help the oppressed. And the only way the oppressor can be stopped, the only way the oppressor can find salvation, is basically you have to give back what you've stolen. Same up here. The colonizers are stealing things from the third world victims. Now, let me just show you one clip first for the theology. This is from the founder of Black Liberation Theology, James Cone. Here it is.
The only way in which your repentance, your forgiveness can be authentic, your reception of it can be authentic, your repentance can be authentic, is that you give back what you took. And white people took a lot from black people.
See, this is where I went wrong and so many Americans went wrong. I went wrong because I thought it was about race for a long time. It's not. It's not. It's not really even about religion. It's not about black and white. It's not about religion. It's not about money. Not about anything. Look, you can be a successful African American running a bank and you're still the oppressor. Most times it's not called anti-colonialism. How do I know? Well, it's called anti-colonialism or neo-colonialism with these people and in the past, but now it's just fact. I want to show you how I know and how your children know this theory and you don't. I want to show you something that we showed you maybe about a year and a half ago from the Tides Foundation, funded by George Soros, and it is playing at about 4,000 schools all across the country. It is called The Story of Stuff. Here is the way they are teaching your children about anti-colonialism.
If everybody consumed at U.S. rates, we would need 3 to 5 planets.
Here we go.
You know what? We've only got one.
Here it comes.
So my country's response to this limitation is simply to go take somebody else's. This is the third world, which some would say is another word for our stuff that somehow got on somebody else's land. So what does that look like? The same thing, trashing the place.
Okay. She's saying to kids in school, what is that? That's just us saying our stuff somehow or another got on their land. We are stealing from the third world because we're the oppressor. That explains it. You can call it whatever you want, but these are the facts. And this is the explanation. Now we're moving from facts. Everything you've just seen are facts. But in case you haven't been able to pin it together yet, I want to move. Can we move the anti-colonial stuff over to this screen, please? Keep this here. I want you to be able to see that. Thank you. Now, we're going to move to opinion. And we're going to go back to Dinesh D'Souza. Because he lived this over in India.